The rain was falling hard when she ran, barefoot, bleeding, clutching her wounded dog as her husband's men closed in. Then out of the storm came a shadow, broad shoulders, a cold stare, a Navy SEAL who'd sworn he was done saving anyone. But when their eyes met, destiny changed its course. That night, bullets flew, secrets burned, and a single act of courage turned fear into a miracle. Before we begin, tell us where you're watching from, and subscribe for more stories of faith, courage, and the miracles God hides in the darkest places. Rain swept across Seattle's industrial bay, thick as smoke and cold as guilt. The waterfront smelled of diesel, salt, and loneliness. Cargo cranes loomed like rusted skeletons against the bruised sky, and neon signs flickered through the storm, red, blue, trembling, like the city itself was breathing unevenly. Jack Turner ran through it all. 32, Navy SEAL on mandatory leave, a man carved from motion and silence. 6 feet tall, lean but corded with muscle, his face sharp in the kind of way that suggested too many sleepless nights. Faint scars crossed his jawline, old reminders from places he no longer spoke of. His gray eyes were watchful, absorbing the chaos of the rain without reflection. Seattle was supposed to be home, but it felt like exile. The world moved too slow here. Civilians talked too much about nothing. Out there in the field, he had a mission. Here, he had only noise. Every step he took through puddles was a small war with memory. The sound of rotors, the flash of muzzle fire, the final scream that still echoed in his chest. Jack ran harder, as if the rain might wash it away. A few miles away, in a run-down apartment building near the harbor, Emily Hart stood at the kitchen sink, staring at her trembling hands. She was 29, but looked older, her beauty faded by years of fear. Her brown hair was tangled, pulled into a rough bun. Her cheek carried the faint yellow bruise of an old slap. Her eyes, a fragile hazel, darted toward the door every time thunder struck. She wore a gray sweater with sleeves too long, hiding the dark smudges along her wrists. Her shoulders were narrow, her frame thin, like a person who'd learned to make herself small to survive. In the corner, chained to a rusted radiator, lay Max, her German shepherd. 5 years old but starved to half his strength, ribs like a ladder under dull fur. One hind leg dragged when he tried to stand, a gift from a past beating. Yet in his amber eyes burned something that refused to die, loyalty. The apartment stank of beer, smoke, and anger. The air thickened when Travis Hart, Emily's husband, came home. A man of 38 with a heavy gut, thick shoulders, and a face puffed by years of alcohol. His beard was uneven, more neglect than style. His voice could fill a room without ever saying something kind. He had once been a dock worker, until a gambling debt and an accident on the job turned him bitter and mean. He lived now on handouts and rage. Behind him stumbled Kyle, a scrawny man in a leather jacket with pockmarked skin and a laugh that sounded like a dying rat, and Mason, tall and quiet, his expression as blank as the beer bottle in his hand. They weren't friends, just orbiting parasites drawn to Travis's cruelty like flies to rot. "Dog's useless," Travis slurred, tossing a wet coat to the floor. "Can't guard, can't hunt. I say we're done with it." Emily froze, her pulse skipping. Her lips parted, but no sound came. Kyle laughed, a high-pitched, nasal cackle. "What, you gonna eat him, Trav?" Travis smirked, his eyes dull with malice. "Why not? Meat's meat. I lost big tonight. Something's gotta pay for it." Max whimpered, head pressed low to the floor. The sound was soft, almost human in its sadness. Emily's throat tightened. "Shut him up," Travis barked. When Emily didn't move fast enough, Travis crossed the room in 3 heavy steps and kicked the radiator. The chain rattled. Max yelped. Emily's body jerked as if the kick had landed on her. Travis turned, his shadow swallowing the small kitchen light. "You got something to say, Em?" Her hands clenched the counter until her knuckles turned white. "He didn't do anything," she whispered. The silence that followed was sharp enough to cut through thunder. Travis's jaw twitched. Then slowly, a cruel grin spread across his face. "You getting brave now?" He took a step closer. She flinched, and in that small motion, her shrinking, her trembling, he found his favorite kind of power. He laughed, low and ugly, and turned back to his beer. But something had broken inside her, so quietly even she didn't feel it yet. Hours later, when the apartment sank into drunken noise and Travis's snores rattled the walls, Emily sat in the darkness beside Max. Her fingers brushed the cold metal of the chain. She whispered, "I'm sorry. I should have left long ago." Max's ears twitched. His head pressed into her palm, weak but trusting. The world outside screamed with rain. Inside, Emily's heart hammered against her ribs as if it wanted out. She remembered every bruise, every night hiding in the bathroom, every time Max tried to protect her and was punished for it. Her breath came faster. She wasn't brave. She was desperate. When the thunder drowned the sound, she moved. The chain was old, the lock corroded. Her trembling hands found a rusted clasp. With all her strength, she twisted. A metallic click broke the silence. Max lifted his head, ears alert, eyes wide. "Shh," she whispered. "We're leaving." Her voice was steady for the first time in years. From the living room, Travis's voice, thick with suspicion, slurred through the darkness. "Emily, what are you doing over there?" Her blood froze. She didn't answer. She grabbed the chain, yanked it free, and bolted for the door. "Get her!" Travis roared, the sound shaking the apartment awake. Emily ripped open the door, the storm hitting her like a wall of needles. She ran barefoot down the hallway, dragging Max, whose injured leg stumbled behind her. Her breath came in gasps. Behind her, boots pounded on the floor. She didn't look back. She couldn't. Outside, the city had turned to water. The alley below glistened like oil. She slipped, caught herself, pulled Max up again. Her lungs burned. Her heart screamed, "Run! Run! Run!" And then impact. She collided with a wall that moved, solid muscle wrapped in soaked fabric. A man's voice, calm but commanding, cut through the rain. "Whoa, easy there." Jack Turner looked down. A woman, soaked, bruised, clutching a trembling German shepherd, stared up at him with eyes wide from years of terror. Behind her, 3 shapes burst from the doorway, shouting her name. In that split second, the soldier and Jack woke. His pulse slowed, his focus sharpened. He stepped in front of her, placing his body between her and the danger. "What's this?" Travis spat, stumbling to a halt. "Move, soldier boy. That's my wife." Jack's voice was quiet, lethal. "Doesn't look that way." Rain streaked his face as he scanned the men. 1 leader, drunk and angry. 2 followers, unsure and clumsy. His muscles remembered what his mind no longer wanted to. Travis charged first, wild and sloppy. Jack's movement was surgical, a palm strike to the throat, enough to silence but not kill. Travis dropped to his knees, gagging. Kyle lunged with a knife. Jack caught his wrist, twisted, slammed him into the brick wall. The blade clattered to the ground. Mason froze, uncertain, then ran. For a long moment, Only rain filled the silence. Emily stood shaking, her breath ragged. Max pressed against her leg. Jack turned, his voice even. "You're safe now." She nodded, unable to speak. Jack's gaze softened for a heartbeat before he turned toward the street. "Come on," he said. "You and the dog. This isn't over yet." And under the screaming storm of Seattle, 3 broken souls disappeared into the dark. The rain had not stopped when Jack Turner drove the old black pickup through Seattle's back streets. Water cascaded off the hood, the wipers barely keeping up. The woman beside him, Emily, sat rigid, hands gripping the edge of the seat. Her wet hair clung to her neck, eyes hollow with disbelief. On the floorboard lay Max, the German shepherd, shivering, one paw twisted awkwardly under his chest. The faint smell of wet fur and blood mixed with the metallic scent of the car's interior. Jack's jaw tightened. He'd seen fear before, on civilians trapped in war zones, on young soldiers staring down death. But this was different. It wasn't shock. It was years of conditioning, the kind of fear that carved itself into the bones. They drove in silence, the engine a steady growl against the pounding rain. Jack's mind moved like a tactical map. 3 threats neutralized, but not eliminated. Travis would come back, not out of love, but ego. That kind of man always did. He needed to move them before dawn. When they reached his apartment, a converted warehouse near Pier 91, Jack parked beneath a flickering streetlight. The building stood tall and gray, windowless except for the narrow slit of his top-floor loft. Inside, the space was sparse. Polished concrete floors, steel furniture, and a wall of maps pinned with red markings from missions long over. Everything had its place. No clutter, no warmth. It was less a home and more a forward operating base. Emily hesitated at the threshold. Jack's voice cut through softly, steady as a command. "Come in. Lock the door." She obeyed without a word, moving as if each step needed permission. Max limped after her, leaving small muddy prints on the clean floor. Jack crouched beside the dog. "Easy, buddy," he murmured. The dog's amber eyes met his, wary but not hostile. Years of working with K9 units had taught Jack to read those looks, fear layered with loyalty. He fetched his field med kit, knelt again, and began cleaning the wound. His movements were precise, surgical. Emily stood a few feet away, watching. "Is he going to be okay?" she asked, her voice barely more than a whisper. Jack didn't look up. "He's strong, stronger than most people I know." She pressed her lips together, unsure if it was a compliment or a warning. When the wound was wrapped, Jack stood and pointed toward the hallway. "Shower's there, towels in the cabinet. Get warm. I'll find you some clothes." Emily nodded, clutching the towel he handed her. In the mirrorless bathroom, steam rose, washing away the smell of fear and rain. For the first time in years, she felt heat without violence. Her reflection, thin face, tired eyes, was someone she barely recognized. While she showered, Jack filled a kettle in the kitchen, his movements methodical. He opened a cabinet, protein bars, instant soup, nothing soft, nothing comforting. He sighed, found a single packet of chamomile tea, probably left behind by a neighbor long ago, and set it on the counter. When Emily emerged, wrapped in one of his dark gray hoodies that swallowed her frame, she froze at the sight of him watching the rain through the window. He looked like a statue, broad-shouldered, motionless, a man carved out of purpose. He turned at the sound of her footsteps. "Sit," he said, motioning to the sofa. "Eat." She obeyed, taking small bites of a protein bar. Max lay beside her, his head on her knee. Jack poured hot water into a mug, slid it across the table. "Tea. Best I can do." She whispered, "Thank you." Jack leaned against the counter, arms crossed. "You should sleep. You'll need it." Emily looked at him, eyes flicking nervously to his scarred hands. "You're not calling the police, are you?" "No." His answer was instant. "Why?" He exhaled. "Because the system fails people like you every day. A restraining order's a piece of paper. Travis would burn it before the ink dried." Her eyes filled with silent tears. "Then what happens now?" Jack didn't answer immediately. He glanced at the maps on the wall. Old missions, forgotten coordinates. "Now, you and your dog rest. I'll handle what comes next." Then quiet stretched between them, fragile but necessary. Later that night, Emily awoke to the low murmur of Jack's voice. He was on the phone, tone clipped, military. "Yeah, it's Turner. I need a favor. Background check on a Travis Hart. Possible violent priors, gambling debts, and I'll need a safe house by morning. No, not military, civilian, discreet." He paused. "Thanks, Sam." When he hung up, he noticed Emily watching him from the sofa. Their eyes met. "Old friend," he said simply. "Someone you trust?" she asked. He nodded once. "Used to be my CO, runs private intel now, owes me a favor." Emily shifted, hugging her knees. "You plan everything, don't you? It's what keeps people alive." Jack turned off the lamp, leaving only the gray wash of moonlight from the window. He took a chair facing the door. Habit, not choice. He didn't sleep. He listened to the city breathe, to the rain easing into a drizzle, to Max's slow, heavy breathing. The silence was the kind that used to comfort him. Tonight, it felt different. By dawn, the storm had passed, but the sky remained bruised. Jack brewed coffee, black and bitter. Emily stirred awake. She looked better, still pale, but her eyes no longer darted like a cornered animal's. Jack poured her a cup. "We'll move soon. My contact's setting up a place for you. Somewhere quiet." She nodded, glancing down at Max, who thumped his tail weakly. "And you?" "I don't stay anywhere long," he said. The knock came then, 3 sharp raps on metal. Jack's entire body tensed. He moved silently toward the door, motioning for Emily to stay put. Through the peephole, he saw a familiar face. Sam Walker, mid-40s, square jaw, graying hair, eyes sharp behind thin glasses. Once Jack's commanding officer, now a private security consultant. Sam carried the air of a man who'd seen too much and trusted too little. Jack opened the door halfway. "You got something?" Sam nodded, stepping inside. "Everything you asked for, and something else." His voice was gravelly, worn from years of shouting over helicopter blades. "Travis Hart. 3 domestic assault charges, all dropped. Owes serious money to a guy named Ray DeLucci. Runs half the underground gambling in Tacoma. If Travis can't pay, DeLucci will come collect." Jack's brow furrowed. "Collect how?" Sam's mouth tightened. "He doesn't send bills, Jack. He sends men." Emily stood now, fear tightening her throat. "You mean they'll come after me, too?" Sam looked at her, professional detachment softening into sympathy. "If they think you're leverage, yes." Jack's voice dropped to a growl. "Then they'll have to get through me." Sam sighed, rubbing his temples. "You can't fight a network, Turner, not alone." "I'm not alone," Jack said quietly, glancing at Emily and Max. Sam studied him, something like understanding flickering in his tired eyes. "I'll do what I can. But DeLucci's men, they don't just chase debts, they erase witnesses." The words hung heavy in the air. Sam handed Jack a flash drive. Background on DeLucci. Use it wisely. Then, with a grim nod, he left. Jack stared at the flash drive, the faint hum of danger already thrumming in his veins. Outside, the rain had stopped, but thunder still echoed far out over Puget Sound, a warning from the horizon. Emily's voice broke the silence. What happens now? Jack slid the drive into his pocket, eyes hard. Now, Emily, he said, his tone a mix of steel and promise, we prepare for war. The following night settled heavy over Tacoma like a bruise. The city glowed in patches, neon bars, half-lit motels, and the restless hum of freight trains crawling through the docks. Rain misted down again, softer this time, but cold enough to bite through clothing. Jack Turner stood by his truck, the dark hood pulled up, scanning the industrial lot behind a warehouse marked DeLucci Imports. His jaw was clenched, his breathing steady. He wasn't supposed to be here, not yet, but patience had never been his strength. Inside the truck, Emily sat quietly beside Max, who lay stretched across the back seat, his head resting on her thigh. His wound had healed enough for movement, but his limp remained. Emily's fingers absently brushed through his fur, her thoughts drifting between fear and disbelief. In just 2 nights, her life had transformed, from a trembling prisoner to someone hiding under the wing of a man whose calm seemed carved from steel. She didn't know what scared her more, the danger outside or the intensity in Jack's eyes when he planned. Jack's phone buzzed. "Walker," he said. Sam's voice came low, steady. "You sure about this, Turner? DeLucci's men don't bluff. They bury." "I need to see what I'm dealing with," Jack replied, eyes fixed on the warehouse. "Travis owes him money. That means leverage. If DeLucci finds out Emily's gone, he'll send men looking. I'd rather meet the storm head on." Sam sighed. "You always were impossible to talk down. Just remember, this isn't Kandahar. You make one wrong move here, you don't get extraction." Jack gave a faint, humorless smile. Wouldn't be the first time. He ended the call, slipped the phone into his jacket, and turned to Emily. "Stay inside. Lock the doors. No matter what happens, don't come out." "Jack," she started, but he was already gone, moving with the silent confidence of a man who'd spent half his life disappearing into enemy territory. From the shadows, he watched the warehouse entrance. A black SUV pulled up, and 3 men stepped out. The first, short, wiry, with slicked-back blonde hair and an expensive leather coat, was Eddie Russo, one of DeLucci's lieutenants. He moved with twitchy impatience, his eyes darting like a rat's. Eddie had grown up in Tacoma's streets, graduated from pickpocket to enforcer, his charm as sharp as his knife. The second man, Tomas Alvarez, was a mountain of muscle, bald, tattooed from neck to wrist, his silence more dangerous than Eddie's bravado. The third, Travis Hart, stumbled behind them, eyes wide, left arm still in a filthy cast. Jack's pulse slowed, so they found him. From his vantage he could hear fragments of conversation as the men argued near the SUV. Eddie's voice, slick and cruel, cut through the drizzle. "You think DeLucci cares about your excuses, Travis? You owe 70 grand. He gave you time. You wasted it." I'll get it," Travis stammered, his words slurred from drink. "I just need a few days." Tomas chuckled low, the sound like gravel grinding. Eddie stepped closer, voice dropping to a hiss. "You had a wife, didn't you? She could fetch a decent payday." Travis froze. "She's gone?" Eddie smiled. Then we'll find her. DeLucci doesn't like unpaid debts." Jack's hand twitched toward the pistol at his side, but before he could move, headlights swept across the lot. Another car arriving. From the sleek black sedan stepped Ray DeLucci himself. Late 50s, Italian-American, his silver hair combed back, his suit immaculate despite the rain. His face carried the wear of age, but his eyes, cold, calculating gray, had the sharpness of a man who'd built an empire on fear. He walked with a silver-handled cane, not out of frailty but power. The gesture forced others to slow down to his rhythm. "Travis," DeLucci greeted, voice smooth as oil. "You disappoint me." Travis dropped to his knees immediately. "Please, Mr. DeLucci, I can fix this." "Fix?" DeLucci's tone hardened. "You bring me excuses. You bring me nothing. You lost my money, then lost my patience. And now you lose everything." He gestured slightly with his cane. Tomas raised his pistol. Jack didn't think. He moved, a flash of motion from the shadows. Jack sprinted forward, silent as a ghost. His elbow cracked against Tomas's wrist before the gun fired. The weapon clattered away. Eddie cursed, fumbling for his own, but Jack slammed him into the SUV door, disarming him with brutal efficiency. Travis scrambled backward, screaming. DeLucci stepped back, startled, but composed. His men recovered fast. 2 more guards poured out of the warehouse, guns drawn. Jack fired twice, controlled, precise. 1 bullet shattered a windshield, another clipped a guard's shoulder, spinning him down. He grabbed Travis by the collar, hauling him behind a shipping container. "You?" Travis gasped. "You're the soldier?" "Quiet," Jack hissed, scanning the angles. "You brought this on yourself. Where's DeLucci's money?" I don't have it. It's gone." Jack's teeth clenched. "Then you just brought a war to a woman who doesn't deserve it." A gunshot cracked. Metal sparked inches from his head. Jack ducked, fired back. He needed to move, fast. Back at the truck, Emily sat frozen as muffled shots echoed through the lot. "Jack," she whispered. Max whined low, ears pricked. Then, from outside, a figure stumbled toward them. Travis, his face streaked with rain and terror. He slammed his hand on the window. "Emily, open the door, please." Emily recoiled. "Stay back." But before she could react further, Jack appeared behind him, grabbed Travis by the collar, and shoved him aside, opening the door. "Drive," he ordered. She didn't hesitate. Tires screamed as the truck tore away from the lot. Behind them, flashes of gunfire lit the rain. DeLucci's voice echoed faintly through the storm. "Find them. Find all of them." They didn't stop until they reached the outskirts of the city. The sky was paling into gray dawn. Jack leaned forward, breathing hard, scanning the mirror. "We just made things worse," he said grimly. Emily looked at him, eyes wide. "What do you mean?" He wiped the rain from his face. "DeLucci saw me. He doesn't forget faces, and now he knows yours." Travis groaned in the back seat, clutching his arm. You can't just leave me." Jack turned, his voice razor-edged. "You gave them her name. You're lucky you're breathing." Emily whispered, "Jack, what happens now?" Jack met her gaze, the hard edge in his eyes softening only slightly. "Now," he said quietly, "we make sure DeLucci can't find us before I find him." But even as he spoke, a phone vibrated in his pocket. Unknown number. He answered, breath sharp. A woman's voice came through, calm, almost amused. "Mr. Turner, you don't know me, but I know you, and if you want to keep Emily alive, you're going to need my help." The line clicked, dead. Jack stared at the phone, the rain beginning again in soft, steady drops. The truck rolled through the early morning fog along a deserted highway north of Tacoma. The rain had turned to mist, clinging to the windshield in a ghostly shimmer. Jack Turner drove in silence, his eyes scanning the rearview mirror every few seconds. Beside him, Emily sat tense, one hand resting on Max's head. The German shepherd had drifted into a shallow sleep, his body curled close to her legs, the faint rise and fall of his ribs visible under the dim dashboard light. Behind them, Travis Hart sat slumped, face pale, clutching his injured arm. He had stopped begging hours ago, but guilt still hung in the air like smoke. Jack's mind, however, wasn't on Travis. It was on the call. The voice of that woman, steady, controlled, unsettlingly calm, had lodged itself in his thoughts like a splinter. "If you want to keep Emily alive, you'll need my help." He'd heard confidence before, but never that kind, like someone who already knew the next 10 moves on a chessboard. He pulled off the main road and into an abandoned gas station surrounded by pine trees. The sign creaked in the wind. "We stop here," he said. "I need to trace that call." Emily looked at him confused. "Who was it?" Jack didn't answer immediately. "Someone who shouldn't know my name. Or yours." He stepped out, stretching his back, scanning the area with soldier's caution. Then he opened his laptop, set it on the hood, and plugged in a satellite receiver. His fingers moved with practiced precision, lines of code reflecting in his eyes. Travis shifted uneasily in the back seat. "You think she's one of DeLucci's people?" "DeLucci doesn't call," Jack said without looking up. "He sends bullets." After a few minutes, the trace pinged back a location. A signal bounced through 3 relays before landing on a data center near Olympia. Jack frowned. "Too clean. Whoever she is, she knows what she's doing." Emily stepped closer, the wind tugging at her hair. "Then what do we do?" Jack closed the laptop. "We let her find us first." Before Emily could respond, headlights appeared in the distance, one car moving slowly down the empty highway. Jack tensed. "Get down." He drew his pistol, motioning Emily and Travis toward cover behind the truck. The car rolled to a stop 20 feet away, its engine idled, headlights cutting through the fog. Then a door opened, and a figure stepped out. She was tall, around 5'9", with dark auburn hair tied in a low braid that brushed the collar of her leather jacket. Her face was striking, sharp-boned, with eyes the color of green glass. She walked like someone who had spent a lifetime avoiding danger, not confronting it, yet carried herself with the poise of someone who could handle both. "Jack Turner," she called out, voice exactly like the one on the phone, calm, measured. "You can put the gun down. If I wanted you dead, you'd already be that way." Jack didn't. "Move." "Who are you?" She smiled faintly. "Someone who's been watching the same people you've been running from." Emily whispered, "You know her?" Jack shook his head. "No, but she knows me." The woman stopped a few feet away, hands visible. "My name is Sarah Connors," she said. "I used to work in intelligence, cyber ops, counter-networking, off-the-books contracts. I left 5 years ago when DeLucci bought himself a few of my old teammates." Her tone didn't waver, but her eyes hardened. "He's bigger than you think. He's got people inside law enforcement, logistics, data brokers. You can't outrun him, Jack. Not without me." Jack lowered the gun slightly, studying her. "You expect me to believe you just showed up out of goodwill?" Sarah smirked. "No. I'm here because DeLucci's operation killed my brother. I want him gone." "You want him gone? Seems like a partnership." Her words hung in the damp air. Jack could hear the faint hum of her car engine and the rhythmic breathing of Max behind him. He didn't trust easily, but something in Sarah's voice, a quiet fury under control, felt real. Travis chose that moment to speak, his tone sharp with panic. "She's lying. You can't trust her. These people, they always want something." Sarah turned her gaze on him, cool and detached. "You must be Travis Hart, the gambling addict who sold his wife's name for whiskey and debt." She took a step closer, her boots crunching the gravel. "If I wanted leverage, you'd already be in DeLucci's trunk." Jack raised a hand. "Enough." He looked at Sarah. "What's your play?" "I have access to DeLucci's financial pipeline," she said. "I can cut his cash flow in half in 48 hours, but I need a physical drive, one he keeps at his secondary office in downtown Tacoma. You help me get it, I make sure your people disappear off every radar that matters." Emily frowned. "And if you're lying?" Sarah met her gaze evenly. "Then you'll have risked nothing you weren't already losing." For a long moment, the only sound was wind whispering through the pine trees. Then Jack holstered his weapon. "If you cross me," he said quietly, "I won't give you a second chance." Sarah nodded once. "Wouldn't expect one." She turned, motioning toward her car. "You should move soon. DeLucci's men are using facial tracking software through the port surveillance network. You've got maybe 4 hours before your plates flag." Jack's eyes narrowed. "You've seen his system?" "I helped build it," Sarah said, her smile thin. Before Jack could answer, Max let out a low growl, ears pricked toward the highway. A dark SUV had appeared on the horizon, moving fast. Sarah's expression changed instantly. "Too late. They found you," Jack barked. "Everyone in the truck." He jumped into the driver's seat as Sarah sprinted to her own vehicle. The roar of engines shattered the morning quiet. Bullets slammed into the gas station sign, sending shards of metal flying. Emily ducked low, shielding Max. Travis screamed something unintelligible. Jack gunned the engine, the tires spinning mud as the truck shot forward. Sarah's car followed close behind, sleek and silent, returning fire through her open window with terrifying accuracy. The SUV swerved, clipped a guardrail but didn't stop. Jack glanced in the mirror, jaw set. "How many?" Sarah's voice came through the comm channel she'd synced to his truck. "3 in the SUV. Reinforcements 5 minutes out. If you want to live, follow my lead." Jack's lips twisted into a grim smile. Wasn't planning to die today. The chase thundered across the wet road, engines howling, gunfire echoing through the forest. Ahead, a bridge loomed, old, narrow, slick with rain. Sarah's car cut in front of Jack's and swerved hard, forcing the SUV behind them to brake. She shouted through the radio, "Turn right! There's a service tunnel under the bridge. Go now!" Jack jerked the wheel, sending the truck skidding into a hidden dirt path that disappeared beneath the bridge's concrete arch. The tunnel yawned open like a black throat. They plunged into darkness, headlights slicing through the mist. When they finally stopped, the world outside was silent again. Jack cut the engine, pulse still hammering. "You always this dramatic?" he asked. Sarah stepped out of her car, breath steady despite the chaos. "Only when someone's trying to kill me before breakfast." Jack's hand tightened on the wheel. "You'd better be worth the trouble." Sarah gave him a small, knowing smile. "Oh, I am, because tomorrow morning you're going to break into Ray DeLucci's fortress, and I'm going to show you how." The faint echo of distant sirens drifted through the tunnel, mingling with the low growl of thunder rolling in again. Dawn broke over Tacoma in muted gold, casting the city's steel skeleton in fragile warmth. The storm had passed, but the air still smelled of ozone and fear. Jack Turner stood on a ridge overlooking the Port District, binoculars in one hand, the other resting on Max's head. Below them, Ray DeLucci's fortress, a converted shipping warehouse surrounded by private security, hummed with early activity. Guards paced the perimeter, radios crackling. Sarah Connors crouched beside Jack, her eyes sharp behind mirrored lenses. "That's our target," she said. "Office on the second floor, west corner. That's where he keeps the drive. Once we get it, I can shut down his entire network in under 2 minutes." Jack studied the layout. "What's the catch?" Sarah smiled faintly. "The room's shielded. No remote access. We'll have to walk in." Emily, sitting in the back of the truck, overheard them. Her pale hair was tied back under a black cap, her face half hidden beneath a scarf. "Walk in?" she asked, incredulous. "There are at least a dozen men with rifles down there." Sarah adjusted her gloves. 15, give or take. But they're mercenaries, not soldiers. They panic when things get loud. She looked at Jack. "You're good at loud." Jack gave her a dry smile. "Loud's easy. Getting out alive's the hard part." Travis shifted nervously near the tailgate. His once cocky expression had been replaced by deep regret. His bandaged arm hung limp at his side. "You don't need me for this. Let me go." Jack turned, his expression cold. "You'll go when I say so." For a moment, silence stretched between them. Then Sarah clapped her hand softly. "We move in 20?" They slipped down the ridge through the fog, using the cover of the cranes and cargo stacks to approach the compound. Jack moved first, his body low, every motion deliberate. Max trotted beside him, ears perked, his coat gleaming faintly in the dim light. The German shepherd's limp had improved, but his eyes, bright amber, intelligent, burned with focus. Sarah handled the electronic locks with practiced precision. Her tools were small, matte black, and frighteningly efficient. Within seconds, the first gate clicked open. They entered the compound's outer ring, sticking to the shadows. Inside, DeLucci's men were changing shifts. They wore tactical vests over civilian clothes, the kind of hired muscle that looked tough until real danger appeared. Jack's instincts told him most wouldn't last long in a fight. They reached the loading dock, where a single guard stood smoking. Jack signaled silently. Sarah nodded, circling wide. A moment later, the guard was out cold, his radio confiscated. "Clear," she whispered. They moved toward the warehouse's main door. Through the glass panels, they could see the glimmer of security monitors. One figure stood out, a man in a dark suit, his posture straight and deliberate. It was Ray DeLucci, calm as always, reviewing reports while sipping espresso from a porcelain cup. Jack exhaled slowly. "Time to finish this." They breached at once. Flash bangs rolled through the door, followed by shouts and chaos. Max lunged forward, tackling one guard to the floor before he could fire. Jack moved with precision born of muscle memory. 2 shots, 2 men down. Sarah darted toward the stairs, laptop slung over her shoulder, her pistol steady in her other hand. But DeLucci was ready. From the upper office, he triggered the lockdown. Steel shutters slammed over the windows, trapping them inside. The alarm blared. "Guess he's not as predictable as you thought," Jack muttered. Sarah's fingers flew across her keypad. "Give me 60 seconds." Gunfire erupted from the mezzanine. Jack took cover behind a crate, returning fire with measured bursts. Emily crouched beside Max, shielding him as bullets ricocheted. Travis, trembling, crawled toward a fallen guard's weapon, but hesitated, fear freezing him. Then DeLucci's voice echoed over the loudspeakers, smooth and mocking. "Mr. Turner, I should thank you. You've brought me exactly what I needed, the traitor and the dog." Sarah didn't look up. "He's talking about me." Jack reloaded. "He's wrong about the dog." Max barked once, a sharp, cutting sound, as if to agree. The next minute stretched into eternity. Jack covered the stairwell while Sarah cracked the vault's encrypted panel. Sparks flew, the terminal beeping angrily. Then, with a hiss, the inner door released. "Got it!" Sarah yelled. They rushed inside. The small office smelled of coffee and gunpowder. On the desk sat a matte silver hard drive, attached to a terminal displaying financial codes, offshore transfers, and police payroll lists. Proof of DeLucci's corruption. Jack grabbed it, tossing it to Sarah. "End it!" Sarah plugged it into her laptop, uploading data to a secure drop. Once this goes public, DeLucci's empire burns. But before she could finish, the door behind them exploded inward. DeLucci himself stood framed in smoke, pistol raised. His tailored suit was speckled with dust, his composure unbroken. "You really think you can destroy me with a file?" Jack faced him, gun drawn. "No, but she can." DeLucci sneered, firing twice. Jack dove, one bullet grazing his shoulder. Max charged, teeth bared, slamming into DeLucci's arm. The gun flew free. The old man screamed, struggling as Max held tight. Sarah finished the upload, slammed the enter key, and turned. "It's done!" Jack pulled Max off, breathing hard. DeLucci lay gasping on the floor. "You don't understand," the crime boss rasped. "You cut the wrong wire. You—" He didn't finish. The server behind him sparked, shorting out in a burst of smoke. They didn't wait to see what burned. Jack grabbed Sarah's arm. "Move!" They sprinted down the stairs as sirens wailed in the distance. Police, for once, not on DeLucci's payroll. By the time they reached the ridge again, the sun was high, the port swarming with law enforcement. Smoke curled from the warehouse. Sarah leaned against the truck, breathing hard. "It's over." Jack looked at her. "Not for you. They'll come for whoever built that system." She gave a tired smile. "Let them try." Emily approached, tears streaking her face, but this time they were of relief. "What happens now?" Jack watched the smoke for a long moment. "Now, we start over." Later that night, they sat around a small campfire in the Cascades, the world quiet, except for the crackle of burning wood. Max lay between Jack and Emily, his head resting on his paws. Travis sat apart, silent, staring into the flames. Sarah stood to leave. "I'll be gone by morning," she said. "New name, new place. If you ever need me, you'll know where to look." Jack nodded once. "Stay safe." As she disappeared into the darkness, Emily turned to Jack. "Do you ever stop fighting?" He smiled faintly. "Only when there's nothing left worth protecting." Max shifted, pressing closer to his side. The fire reflected in his amber eyes, steady and loyal. And for the first time in years, Jack let himself believe that maybe, just maybe, the fight had been worth it. Sometimes miracles don't arrive as flashes of light or angelic voices. Sometimes they come in the form of a soldier who refuses to look away, a woman who dares to hope again, and a wounded dog who learns to trust once more. In every act of courage, in every quiet decision to protect rather than destroy, God is there, whispering through the storm, guiding broken souls back towards the light. If this story touched your heart, share it with someone who might need a reminder that faith still heals, that love still rescues, and that no one is ever too lost to be found. Leave a comment telling us what moment moved you most, and subscribe to our channel for more stories of redemption, hope, and second chances. May God bless you and your loved ones. May He watch over your home, heal your hidden wounds, and send you the miracle you've been waiting for.